I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Sabers.
Here.
Goldammer. Here. Dosher. Here. McCardle. Barrington. Bathke.
Here.
Charts. Here. Smith.
Here.
We'll do the invocation after the executive session if they show up. So make a motion or entertain a motion to go into executive session according to South Dakota Codified Law 125-23 legal.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. McCardle. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Will be in my office. The items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of formal agenda items. Is there anything you wish to remove? No? Okay. Anything you wish to discuss?
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle,
Second.
second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address these items? Roll call.
Severs.
Aye.
Goldammer.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Bathke. Sharks. Smith.
Aye. Motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor and members of city council on an item that is not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken. Does anybody wish to address council?
I don't have my, timer, sorry.
Are you getting it?
I got it, sorry.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. First off, I'd like to thank Mrs. Charks and Mr. Bathke for being at the lake debate in person regarding the Lake Mitchell dredging project held at the D.W. McGovern Center. It was a pretty good turnout with about 150 people attending. A lot of people there talked about comparing apples to apples. I have to say what a huge disappointment that Barr Engineering, who the city wants to do a multi-million-dollar dredging project, didn't have anyone present to explain their position and answer questions. Important questions, like when a member of the Friends of Fire still stated that Barr Engineering's plan for dredging included the Campground Bay and Kippis Bay located at the far south end of the lake. But Barr Engineering's plans don't show that. Wouldn't it have been nice if someone from Barr Engineering would have been present to answer that question? So, are the Friends of Fire still spreading misinformation? Especially since some information going around states that Barr Engineering's plan is to only dredge about 50% of the lake. Also extremely disappointed that our mayor wasn't there in person to answer any questions. How convenient that the two parties with the most knowledge about the dredging project failed to show up. After the mayor's video message, we were told we could ask him a question at the next council meeting. The two problems with that are he doesn't have to answer and there wouldn't be near the audience. Again, how convenient. Mr. Mayor, you said the reason you didn't give Everblue Lakes a chance was because their bid was $11 million and Barr Engineering's dredging bid at the time was $10 million. Did Barr Engineering's bid include $5 million worth of chemical treatments, alum? No. Did Everblue Lakes bid include $5 million worth of chemical treatments? Yes. So if we're going to compare apples to apples, we have to subtract $5 million worth of chemical treatments from Everblue Lakes' bid, making their bid $6 million, far less than a $10 million dredging bid. And if you really want to compare apples to apples, then look at line 2 of Everblue Lakes' bid. It includes $1.5 million to $2 million worth of floating wetlands. Barr's dredging bid of $10 million doesn't include that. And we all know how important wetlands are, especially since it's so difficult to get producers up to the creek to take some of their land out of production. So, Mr. Mayor, you're not comparing apples to apples. It's more like apples to elephants. And why do you insist on playing those number games? We can dredge without additional costs? No. So the total cost for dredging project is $25 million, not including chemical treatments. The total cost for Everblue Lakes, $4.5 million, not including chemical treatments or floating wetlands. So again, quit playing these numbers games, give us the correct and honest information, and let we, the people, make our own informed decisions. And just to make sure there's no misinformation going around, I gladly invite anyone to prove these numbers wrong so we can all stay informed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address council? Okay. Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for city council recess as the Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Charks,
Second.
second by Mr. Goldhammer. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 11/20/23. Janelle Gibson has applied for conditional use permit to operate a family residential daycare located at 613 East 3rd, legally described as Lot 4, Block 37, Cooley and Guernsey Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Said property zoned R2, single family.
7-8.
Motion by Mrs. Charks.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCardle. Discussion. Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Reconvene as City Council, entertaining motion for Board of Adjustment to adjourn City Council, reconvene in regular session.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Charks. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve special event permit application food pantry turkey giveaway on Saturday, November 18th, 2023. Mr. Coster.
Mayor and Council, the applicant is here and can answer questions to this. What they have requested is the closing of the street and what is known as the TMA parking lot, which is approximately 800 block of North Main, and then the closing of Lawler from 7th to 9th for the turkey giveaway event that will be occurring on the 18th of November. This is a repeat event. Public safety's concern with this is this event has become far too successful for the location. And I say that not to be, in jest or to be disrespectful. It serves a very good purpose for our community. They have done smaller events, and Ms. Pooley would be able to explain the numbers in more detail. But they're advertising 175 turkey dinners, the bird and everything to go with it, to be given away to the first 175 that qualify. What we experienced back in April, and other city staff can attest to this because they were here in the Corn Palace and in City Hall when it happened, is the event in April was for less items, and I don't know how well it was advertised, but it certainly wasn't, a Thanksgiving meal. The police department received calls that Lawler was blocked, 7th and Main was blocked. We pretty much gridlocked this entire area. The sergeant that responded, we had 3 patrol officers responded to try and help with traffic on that, and they had at least one instance of a car that was just abandoned in the street. They left it in the driving lane, no one in it. I know we had complaints of a couple near fistfights for people that just couldn't get through the roadways. And the sergeant had spoken to traffic was backing up toward First Avenue because the normal traffic plus the traffic that was trying to get to the event, just everything stopped. What we would recommend to make this flow better would be to relocate the event to Cadwell. We can, more easily, the group can more easily accommodate an unknown number of vehicles. They're expecting 150, and Ms. Pooley said that, some will come 2 to a vehicle, others won't. But there is no predetermined number of how many will be there. And I would expect, given what the event is, the timing of the year, and I think we can all admit that food concerns are no better than they were. People are in need, and this serves that purpose very well. We had spoken with the Pooleys, and public safety's recommendation would be to close Cadwell on that service road that comes in past just west of the middle school off of 8th Avenue. They would be able to come down into Cadwell, form a serpentine to stack as many cars as they could in there, and then they would be able to distribute and exit out what is 13th onto Minnesota with minimal, if any, impact to traffic and the public. I think it would also improve, the people that are coming for less confusion. And I know they have some concerns about transporting the product out there. When we talked, they were looking for another flatbed trailer to get the rest of their items out there. I think Mr. Schrader would be able to explain a little more as to how many cars we could probably queue up on that road going into Cadwell and Cadwell itself. But we also have another event at the Corn Palace here, which is a DW basketball game at 1 p.m. The event that we're speaking of starts at 11. So my concerns are we would have that many people, that much concentration down here, and also occupying one of the bigger city parking lots coming into that DW ball game. So if you had any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. I think this is a good event. I don't want to be negative about the event. I think it's just become too popular, and it has outgrown its location. I think we need to look at a new, bigger area to host this, to just make it far easier to get it accomplished.
Do you want to speak to it, Mrs. Pulley?
Well, we don't want to do it any place other than where we're at because it is most convenient. We have no paid staff. We are all volunteers. Most of us are seniors. We want to do what is easiest for us. Moving it to Cadwell would require more work.
Don't mind me asking, where would the extra work be from moving it to Cadwell?
You have to get a trailer and a forklift to put the pallets of boxes on the trailer and haul them over and unload them.
How do you haul them here? I'm not
We-
familiar with the event.
We use a forklift and we drive from the food pantry to the parking lot, 2 blocks. 7
Everything was
trips.
at the food pantry.
The food is at the food pantry
Okay.
on Saturday morning and then we haul it over on
Okay,
pallets.
that's what, yep.
The turkeys come from County Fair and they come on a trailer, and the trailer goes to the parking lot.
Any chance of moving it up 1 hour?
We've already moved it back from 12 to 11 to accommodate the ball game. We can get this done in 45 minutes. So we would be out of the parking lot before 12 o'clock, by 12 o'clock.
Was part of the problem in the past that we just weren't prepared for it? Is there a way that we could be prepared and have the area blocked off and have the traffic rerouted so that we could accommodate this event the way it has been in the past? I'm asking Chief Pastor or Joe.
We, as far as public safety goes, we would really have no way to direct the people to that area without driving them around the block and trying to find them space in there. But I don't know that you would get potentially 150-plus vehicles in the area that we're discussing without backing up into the road. And at what time do they start to arrive to be there?
Could we start this across could we close the road across the street and the parking lot across the street as well to accommodate for the Serpentine snake and have the traffic flow through that parking lot into the other lot?
That could be an option.
To the lot to the east or to the west? Well, the west is a private lot, I guess.
So I think you mean the east?
Yes, that one, where the cursor is. Yeah.
Say that again.
Disco lot.
Oh, the disco
Disco
lot,
lot.
yeah.
So then they could start on the opposite side, is that Kimball?
Yeah, Kimball's.
So that you could close off Kimball and Lawler and then have them flow through the disco lot and then come out towards what would be the south side of that lot into then the place where they're distributing the food?
That would certainly help.
We have not blocked off any streets ever. We've only blocked off the parking lot, so that leaves Lawler Street for people to back up.
I've been by there before when this goes on, and it's a cluster down there. I mean, there's traffic.
Yep.
You can't
So-
get down the street.
For council's information, before that, there was never a permit or a application made, but yes, we would learn about it when it's happening. We, like Chief Koster said, we'd have issues with traffic backing up, blocking intersections. That's why we recommended that it go through the application process and do something to alleviate those safety concerns.
It is growing. The first few, weren't an issue. The last one really got a lot of traffic in it. I think you had higher numbers than normal, didn't you?
Only the last 2 where we've done 150, now
Yeah.
we're doing 175, but we started out doing 125, and that's what we've done every year.
And most of them have gone fairly smoothly. It's this last one that really, we got a lot of traffic jam, and it was backed up a long way.
We had Lawler backed up almost to First, I believe, at the last event.
And I think this is compounded by the Dakota Wesleyan basketball game, but, maybe it can be done before it. I don't know. Would it work if you did the lot to the east and routed people off Lawler across to Kimball? Or however you want to do it?
Let's see, we're closing off. Now, we've never closed off Lawler before, but by blocking Lawler from 7th to 9th, there would be no cars there. And they would all have to go in through the Disco parking lot, which has more than 200 parking spaces. And then when we start, if we just open up the entrance to Disco, the south entrance, I guess, they'd let them out one by one. We could open the south and the north, let them come from both directions. But surely they wouldn't block 7th and 9th, but
So you could control the cars coming out of the Disco parking lot then?
sure.
Well, and so the reason I said the south is so that way you could still have a line form. And so the people that, because the flyer says first come, first serve, and so you don't want to have them parking in that lot, but the serpentine kind of snake-like structure that would be provided there would allow for that capacity and capability, I would think.
I think it's important. This is a wonderful service that you guys are providing, and I want you to know that we appreciate it. And our intention is to just make it go smoothly and make it so that we don't run into the problems that have happened in the past. But I think that, Jim, that's a great idea if we can make that work. And you're talking about 45 minutes. I'm like, 45 minutes, we can do this, right? We can make this happen.
Well, it doesn't take long, once we start.
And then if you had that parking lot, the Disco lot closed, you'd want to do that early because people come an hour or two early to get in line for that first come, first serve. So that would allow for that staging without blocking traffic.
My question for Karen, will you have people at those intersections directing traffic to where they need to go?
We could make that happen.
So I do feel like there will be a lot of confusion if you do want people to go to the Disco lot, whereas before they are used to queuing on Lawler. And given the first one's always going to have growing pains, I think people there directing people where to go would be a huge benefit, as well as in the Disco lot, because once you get in there, you could get lost very quickly on where you needed to go and how that's all going to function.
Chief Costner, do you feel comfortable with that?
That is definitely an option. I know there's some cars that are in that lot. We would want those removed so you have the entire lot? Is that what the request would end up being?
That's fair.
I know there's space there, but can we get the cars queued up in there without stumbling over those parked vehicles? Typically, what we do when we do these events, we're closing streets and lots. We do it early enough so that there's no traffic on the streets. If you're familiar with our parades and other, events we do, we close them early enough so that we typically do it at low traffic time, so we don't deal with towing vehicles in a higher traffic time when we actually have to have that closed. So that would be our concern using that other lot, would be, what's in there and can we work with what's left in there without actually clearing it.
Chief, maybe you could work with these folks on how you would recommend they route traffic so that people aren't coming from every which way, all trying to get to their PennDOT point, and they'll just enter on Kimball and exit on Lawler or.
Yeah, absolutely. If they could do signage. Yeah. If they could do signage and enter right there across from Muth, and then just start to the right and just go that direction, with cones to close it from traffic, which
Come
is.
right out there and go north.
And put them right out there.
How many people you turn away?
I don't know. When we're done, we're gone.
My guess, what I'm getting at is they're saying 25.
Or 175 boxes.
Do you only get an extra 75 people lined up, so this might even,
Three.
not even work?
Well, we have a lot of people come together because many of our people don't have vehicles, so they have to come with a friend. So it's not, we don't go through probably 150 vehicles, but there are those at the end that do not get. And that's, we started with 125 and we've slowly expanded because there's all those cars left at the end. So then we do 25 more and now we're going to do 25 more.
Okay. Any further discussion with Mrs. Pooley?
So I would move to approve with the addition of the disco lot being closed from the, would the 3 a.m. time be proper there? So the disco lot being closed at 3 a.m.
That's generally when we do closures, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
As well.
okay. So are you looking at closing both the TMA lot and the disco lot?
Yes, with Lawler as well, please.
Okay. That work for you?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action,
Thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
action to approve agreement A 2023-38, electric vehicle charging station, EVCS, host agreement. Mr. Johnson.
All right, so if you remember back to beginning of September, we had a very similar agreement in front of council at that time. The location that was considered at that time would have been back behind Main Street Mercantile in the 7th and Rowley parking lot. After that meeting, or during that meeting, the item was postponed until we could come up with a new location, as council did not, or felt that that location was at a premium and felt that there might be a better option for the community. Staff worked with Northwestern to try to identify a few different locations that might work to accommodate those charging stations. Out of those ones that were identified, the one that worked best for Northwestern would have been at the 5th and Rowley parking lot. It would basically be 5 most northwestern parking spaces in that parking lot, and I think Stephanie is pulling that one up.
Is that the closest to the post office? Is that right? The corner closest to the post office?
Yes, yep. So you can see on the image there, that's where the spots would be. You can see the location exhibits within this item and the next easement item that shows you where the actual area is. Just down a little bit more. Yeah. So that would be the actual easement area. Again, it would be 4 EV charging stations. There'd be 2 pedestals, and each pedestal would serve 2 spaces. It sounds like they would place some of the electrical equipment on a nearby pole, so that should save some space on the ground. Other than that, the vast majority of the terms of the host agreement and everything like that are almost exactly the same as they would have been when this was here 2 months ago. So I think the only really thing that's different at this time would just essentially be the location itself. I know there are Northwestern representatives here, if there are any questions, but I think that's all I have for a summary.
Joe, what's the condition of the parking lot now? Is this the time to fix something?
So I haven't had any concerns recently about that parking lot. I'm not sure the last time that we redid
Didn't we
it.
redo it about 4 years ago?
Oh, yeah, because so we recently redid that alley. But anyway, so any damages that they do on their installation, they will have to fix.
I was just thinking of ease, if we're gonna be in there doing something, do it all.
And really, this project itself will not have a lot of impact to it, except for with maybe some striping. But the actual impact of the surfacing itself, I think, will be very minimal.
Justin, can you refresh my memory? The billing and all of the electricity used will be billed through Northwestern, and how they handle that with the customers at the station will be their responsibility?
Yeah, the city's not involved in any of that.
I use that parking lot quite a bit. I think it's a great location if they're happy with it. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Sabers, second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those for the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement A 2023-39, electric vehicle charging station easement. Mr. Johnson?
All right, so this would be the same project. This would just be the easement that goes along with the host agreement.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle,
Second.
second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this?
When they offer a service like that, how is it taxed? Like, what are we gonna get? They're selling electricity.
We would get the sales tax off the electricity.
There's gonna be sales tax. I mean,
Right.
what do you project it to be?
Aaron Fox, on behalf of Northwestern Energy. I can't tell you exactly what the tax will be, but what I do know is any electricity that is flowing through and goes to an electric vehicle, the customer will be paying for that service. Northwestern Energy Solutions will be paying Northwestern Energy for the gas, reimbursing Northwestern Energy for that, or the electricity. And then we will be taking care of the taxes associated with that service. In fact, the vendor we're going to be working with will be allocating the revenue and taxes accordingly. So we're also not involved in that process. Does that answer your question?
What's the approximate amount to charge a car? Right, an average. I mean, I have no idea.
I think that's fluctuating as that industry's changing, so we're not even certain what we're going to be charging at this point. That's something we're going to have to evaluate once we get this equipment in.
Oh.
Or as we proceed with that. So it's,
Do you have any others already installed?
this will be the first one.
Oh, we're breaking ground here.
Trendsetters.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to address this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreement A 2023-51, participation in regional water supply plan with Randall Community Water District. Mr. Schrader.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council. Council gave staff approval to explore a secondary water source option with Randall Community Water District on June 21st of '22. Staff is now requesting City Council approval to participate in a regional water supply plan. The Randall Community Water District is the lead on the study, with Aurora Rural Water System, AB, and Davison Rural Water also participating. Randall Community Water District is utilizing Bros Engineering for overall plan and project management. SEH, who is a consulting civil engineer out of Sioux Falls, was selected through a request for proposal process and will identify future needs and costs associated with those needs. I've attached the scope of work with SEH, who will be completing the plan. Total preliminary cost to Randall Community Water District is $652,000, which the City of Mitchell will be responsible for $250,000. I provided that breakout for you. Staff does recommend council approval for participation in the plan and to approve the agreement with Randall Community Water District at a cost of $250,000, which will come out of our Water Enterprise Fund. And with that, I can answer any questions you may have.
Entertain a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Charks,
Second.
second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve agreements between the City of Mitchell and Burlington Northern and Santa Fe Railroad for the Spruce Street project. Mr. Schrader.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council. This is one of the last steps we need to complete in order to do our Spruce Street Extension project west of, or east of Highway 37 to the first MTI driveway. The attached agreement is for sidewalk construction and an easement for Spruce Street with BNSF, as well as a sidewalk construction and maintenance agreement. Permanent easement fee is $4,500 and a temporary easement fee is $500 plus a $2,500 processing fee, and staff does recommend approval.
Okay.
So
entertain a
can you describe for us, Joe, just a little bit about how this will look?
So it will be, so right now to the west of the railroad tracks, it's currently set up for a 5-lane that was completed as part of the DOT project for Burr Street. It will have 2 lanes either direction with a center turning lane. And basically that configuration will be extended, and that will allow doubles to turn left from Burr onto Spruce.
Is there a possibility that that could be extended past the first driveway at Mitchell Tech?
So right now, just because of sequencing, we want to get it to that first driveway. So when we do move forward with the next project, technically MTI will not be closed. They can use that first access, I believe, to about anywhere on their campus, or we can get them temporary access to all of their facilities. So the intention is to get this first phase done, and then we'll look at budgeting the remainder across.
Well, as somebody who has seen that traffic back up for, I don't know, at least the last 6 years, move to approve.
You're pretty brave. Motion by Mr. Goldhammer, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. First reading on ordinance 0-2023-09, 2024 annual appropriations ordinance. Ms. Ellwein.
Included in your packet is the actual ordinance for the first reading for council's review. That is a more abbreviated version. It just shows the totals for the budget by fund. I did also just delete what I didn't need to. There, hold on. I updated the annual budget overview to include the changes that were recommended by council at the October 16th work session. That would be the additional funds that were granted to Mitchell Main Street and beyond, as well as the prehistoric Indian Village and the reduction made to contingency. So the narrative overviews have been updated to reflect that. A couple items that I've added into the presentation from the last meeting that would be different is I did an overview. Every year we talk about where the majority of the city's general fund revenue comes from, and I just wanted to show you a breakout of that. If you look at the tax revenue that is collected, which is the majority, that's how we fund the majority of what we do. That's our law enforcement, fire, general operations, streets, snow removal, all that good stuff. 33% of the tax revenue is from property tax, 67% comes from sales tax. But if you look at the total revenue in the general fund as a whole, property tax is 25% of that total revenue, and sales tax is 52% of that total revenue. You can see where our other revenue streams come from, and those are mainly through, other things that grants and charges for goods and services. Cash applied, that's the funds that we use that we're transferring out to other funds for different projects that are included in the capital improvement plan. I also did just show you how the property tax collections and sales tax collections have varied over the years, so you could have that at your for your review. Other than that, there aren't any major changes in the presentation from the previous years. A couple other things that I guess I would just point out. We do have a narrative on the capital improvements that are included in the budget. You can see by fund where those projects are located, as well as we have a listing of all of the capital projects in the budget as well. Another item, just to bring to your attention, we have the overlay map, the chip seal map, parking lot improvements, and the sidewalk improvements that we reviewed at, I believe, the first or second budget work session as well. I can certainly walk you through the full narrative, or I can answer questions that council may have. I don't want to continue to repeat myself if you are not wanting to hear it, but I will definitely walk through the narrative if you'd like me to. Okay, two other things then I guess I will just point out. Our revenue looks like it's actually a decrease from previous, or excuse me, not that revenue. Let's go here. Sorry. I got to get to my expenditures. Our expenditure budget looks like it's a major decrease from previous years, but that's really just because previous years we had state revolving fund loans that were doing utility projects. And so those projects have been removed of the 2024 budget. So it's not like we have this other revenue that we had that we're not spending anymore. It's just those projects were specifically funded by bonds that now that revenue and that expenditure has been removed from the budget. Any questions on the appropriation ordinance?
I'm just, I'm just observing the entertainment tax fund budgets. And remind me, the community project that goes from 175 to 280, is that the
streetscape that we have budgeted, we have the Third and Main as well as the, wait, not Third and Main. Yes, Third and Main, and then the second and fourth projects as well.
Third and Main, second and fourth?
And Railroad, yep, those are included in there. Let me give you the full breakout though. They would be also listed on the capital projects. My spreadsheet's a little fast here. Okay, so in the community project funds, we have, there is the pre-Sturgis party, which is part of that $20,000. We have $10,000 for the different beautification projects that we have ongoing, and then $250,000 for the streetscape and plaza improvements. We have $250,000 that we transfer out to the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and then we have $420,000 that is transferred out to the Corn Palace for a subsidy for their operations. That's the breakout of those three lines.
Thank you.
Yep. There, I should also say, we do have part of Third and Main is budgeted this year, and it's not going to get spent this year, so that will get rolled into the next year's budget. We don't duplicate that in this year's budget, or in the 24 budget.
I want to stay on this entertainment tax. I have a question that I've asked Stephanie for some info on. So the Convention and Visitors Bureau used to supply an events coordinator, I believe was his title.
There was an events coordinator that was with Convention and Visitors Bureau for a while,
Okay.
yes. It varied, and we tended to lose them very rapidly.
So my issue with it is we took on the position as a city, approximately $80,000 a year. And their funding never changed. They were offering that service to us before, and we continue to give them the full $250,000. It's like we gave them an extra, let's just say he was making $65,000. We gave them an extra $65,000 a year because we took the position on. And I visited with Mr. McCardle about this. The guy's doing a great job, he said. And I trust him. I watched a couple of meetings. He's doing a good job. So why would we continue to give them the full subsidy if we took on that payment for this gentleman? And I see Jerry,
Some of that-
so I would invite her to.
Some of that has to do with advertising the city and the Corn Palace, and go ahead.
And I was going to clarify, so in my response, I said Aaron's primary duty is he coordinates and works with the Sports and Events Authority for the city of Mitchell. He's also been working on bringing new events to town and works with Doug on bringing some events to the Corn Palace as well. My understanding is that the CVB used to have a staff person that they assigned to the Sports and Events Authority, but that wasn't their sole purpose. They did other work as well, but Jerry would be able to answer that.
Not to speak for you. No, that's fine. Good evening, Jerry Beck with the Chamber and Development Corporation. So exactly, I think we thought that it was about 15 to 20% of that position's responsibility, maybe a little bit higher than that. And we replaced that position right away. It's Johanna Allen that's doing the position, and she does a fabulous time with them, with all the marketing that we're doing.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions?
I was just going to make for sure that our contingency is the same number around that 800.
After the $7,000 that was removed at the last meeting, I'll pull that up. It's also in the fund overview for anyone who wanted to look that up online. This shows the history of our contingency. So next year we have it budgeted at $804,628. If you remember, we also increased our interest income. So if that interest drops, we would allocate part of that contingency to cover the shortfall. In addition, we also went up in our projected sales tax collection. So just like every other year, if we see sales tax starts to dip, we immediately earmark some of that contingency to cover the revenue shortfall so that we still end the year with a structurally balanced budget.
And remind me again, we're going to be voting on the sales tax on groceries next November.
Yeah.
And if that does get voted out, that's close to $1 million.
Correct. It was like $958,000, I believe, when I looked that up. That would be the impact if they do vote to eliminate the tax on groceries. There's also some discussion statewide about it may be higher than that because one of the proposals or one of the language says, and it has to do with consumables. So the concern is that it might go beyond just groceries. So we know that the impact would be a minimum of $958,000 a year to the city. That's also why we held back on some of that sales tax revenue projection just in case that does go away next year, so we wouldn't have to cut $1 million out of the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Wasn't there some discussion that it would be only the state's portion at one point?
That is when they were considering it in the legislature. And yes, that is what they were doing. They were going to keep the state sales tax on groceries at 0%, but then the cities could continue to be collected. So the discussion is that we are prohibited from collecting a tax that the state doesn't collect. And if this ballot language comes out the way they're saying, and if the measure passes, we would no longer be able to collect the tax anymore.
So it had gone away for us as well.
Right,
through the
so
state law.
I guess it seems to me like we would not be the only municipality in the state who would be like shaking in our boots over this prospect.
You are correct.
So is there any kind of an education campaign that will be going out to help the people understand the impact of this?
Yes, I know the South Dakota Municipal League was in conversation about legislative efforts to, do a campaign, at least an educational campaign about the impacts to local municipalities. But ultimately, if that makes it onto the ballot, it's also going to be up to us to talk to our communities to say what that local impact is to us. Because if you look at Mitchell, where we have people coming from 30 to 60 minutes away to shop within Mitchell. Remember when we did the retail study, we found that 50% of the total dollars spent come from people that live 30 to 60 minutes away. If we lose that, that's probably going to be a bigger hit on us than maybe a different town that isn't seeing that influx from outside of their community. And ultimately, that's takes away from our operating revenue. That's how we fund law enforcement, fire, snow removal, streets, parking lots, alleys, bike paths, all that we do comes out of sales tax and property tax.
I always forget about this when budget comes around until I go to a basketball game and get jumped on. Do we have anything I mean, our seats in that Corn Palace have been horrible for 10 years, and they get worse every year. And I hear about it went to 2 games this weekend, and people do we have anything budgeted for fixing those seats? They're so horrible in there.
Doug has it in the 2023 budget. I don't know the status of that project.
Sure, I can address that. Believe me, no one wants to get them repaired more than me.
They're horrible.
So we started in March with that, and we found a fabric company that can make that fabric over in near St. Louis, and ordered in first part of April, thought they'd be here end of May, and we're having them, that's just the fabric, then it would be cut here locally, then our staff would replace them. And still no fabric. And I reached out to him, in fact, I just did last week again, and it's the same thing. They can't get the material made to send it to us. Now, we can get a green that would look odd, but we can actually get this fabric, so they tell us. So we are working to try to get it here. But yes, we had $3,000 budgeted. That would give us 150 new cushions. And then that would we start with section A3 and A4.
We need a lot more than 150.
Well, actually, when we replace those sections, we think we could get 400 with, that's just the first round, correct? Yep. 400 would make a big difference,
I
because
think they all need to be done. They're bad.
But to answer your question, there wasn't a
Okay.
request for the 2024 budget, just what's in the 2023 capital budget.
I mean, that's what brings people to town, and they come in and see that. I mean, that junk they sit on, I mean, it's horrible. Brings 400,000 people a year here, and they have to look at that. I think we should invest something into it.
We are on first reading, so we'll entertain a motion for first reading.
Move to approve on first reading.
Motion by Mr. Charks,
Second.
second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and first reading on ordinance 0202310, rezoning Lot 1 of R.L. Decker First Edition in the southeast quarter, Section 29, Township 103 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davis County, South Dakota, from Highway Business District to UD Urban Development District. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve this. It was published in the paper, notices were sent out to neighbors, signs posted. And we did have 3 letters returned. 2 were in favor, 1 had questions on it. A lot of the concerns from the neighbors are any future development for that area, drainage. Drainage would go through their land to get down to Kibbe Ditch. They are working with SPN for that, so we would require that for any future land development out there as well. Urban development is more restrictive than the highway business. They're actually looking for self-storage units on the north side, maybe some outside commercial storage. Urban development allows for the possibility of outdoor commercial storage. It is a conditional use, whereas it is not even permitted or conditional use for highway business. So that's what they're looking for with that. And then possibly some development for a couple more houses on the south portion of it. Ingress, egress to that. There's some concern about some extra traffic for that and the width of the road. The property owner would be able to move the easement and construct a wider road. He has the equipment to be able to do such a thing. I can answer any questions that you may have.
And for the public's knowledge, the Planning Commission had no problem.
Correct.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and first reading on ordinance 0202311, rezoning blocks 1 and 2 of Maui Farms Second Edition and a portion of Sam Street, a subdivision previously platted Lot 4 of the east half of the west half of Section 31, Township 104 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davidson County, South Dakota, from UD Urban Development to Lot S, Maui Farms Second Edition Plan Development District. Mr. Janik.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended unanimously to approve this. It was posted, letters sent out to the neighbors, published in the paper. We had one letter returned in favor. This should look pretty familiar to you. They just platted this out. They would like to extend the PUD that's there now to do another 20 lots for more storage units at that location. So this would be bringing that into the PUD for it.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle,
Second.
second by Mr. Goldhammer. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and first reading on ordinance O 2023-12, amending Lot S Maui Farms Second Edition Plan Development District. Mr. Jenigas.
So this goes along with that last one that you just had. Because this is a PUD, PUDs have the legal descriptions in the ordinance with them, whereas your R4, R2, R3, none of those have legal descriptions set out in ordinance. So because of this, we would have to add the new legal to that PUD. It was published in the paper, notices were sent out to neighbors. We had 5 letters returned in favor of it. The questions that arose from this was because there's the existing PUD that's there. They were concerned it was going to affect their taxes if they had to pay for the road, that Sam Street getting extended, water, sewer, anything like that. That doesn't affect anything that's already existing. If the road gets put in, it's adjacent landowners, just like if there was going to be any water or sewer. There isn't going to be water and sewer up there. Water would be from Davison Rural Water. But those were the questions, and after explaining that, they had no concerns with it at all. I can answer any questions that you may have.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Goldhammer,
Second.
second by Mr. McCardle. Discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Entertain a motion to enter into executive session according to South Dakota Codified Law 125-23 legal. Motion by Mrs. Charks,
Second.
second by Mr. Goldhammer. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. No action will be taken after executive session.
the guest conductor of the South Dakota Symphony Orchestra.